How about that blade mark from Hell in a Cell right there between his eyebrows? Isn't that crazy?
I just noticed that. Good eye.
You can see the business wearing on you visually, even. There you see China, European title over one shoulder, world title over the other. Of course, you may recall he actually beat Davey Boy Smith for the European title at one night only in the UK. And there's our commentators. We didn't see this version very often. Of course, when people think about commentary in this era, they usually think about JR and the King, but now it's JR and Cornette. I loved Cornette and JR together. What'd you think of them as a pair?
Really, really fun to listen to. Great chemistry between the two of them. Uh, Look, you can say whatever you want about Jim Cornette. He's certainly no friend of mine. I should say I'm no friend of his. He, whatever. I don't mind Jim. I listen to Jim quite a bit. Um, he's highly, highly entertaining, very, very quick witted. And I think the combination of him and JR together was, I preferred it over Jerry Lawler, to be honest with you. Much, much preferred it.
Well, do you prefer this version of LOD? What we've got here is the Legion of Doom coming to the ring, and they're not wearing shoulder pads. Like the idea that they came to the ring without their spiked shoulder pads even one time was one time too many. It's such a cool part of the presentation. It's hard to imagine them not using it here.
I wonder what precipitated that. Any idea?
I don't know if they're trying to freshen it up. I don't know if it's because they're going to do a little post match story. I don't know if they didn't want to because of what's going to happen.
Maybe they just get tired of dragging that shit all over the place. I mean, that's a lot to carry on luggage is one thing, but spiked shoulder pads, you think they're not, they got to be a pain in the ass to drag around.
I can't believe this is real, but we're about to watch tag team wrestling history here. Here come the shoulder pads. There you go. It was the damn 30
that's why.
New Age Outlaws who've stolen their shoulder pads. And this is the debut, I believe, of the Oh, You Didn't Know? And the New Age Outlaws are about to win the tag titles here. Think about how strong they're putting over the Outlaws. We're going to wear your shoulder pads to the ring. We're going to make fun of you before the match. Then we're going to beat your ass and become tag team champions and take your title belts. This is how you make a tag team, even in 1997, right?
Indeed, but I got to be honest with you. I'd love to have been backstage listening to whoever produced this lay it out to Hawk and Animal, because that would have been an interesting conversation to listen to. They weren't the easiest guys sometimes to get along with creatively. They had very, very strong opinions and were reluctant to compromise. Let's put it that
way. You mean they wanted to win all their matches?
It's not so much that. That's part of it, but just, stealing their shoulder pads and putting heat on them and then going out and beating them. You can see one or the other, but when you stack them up together, it gets a little rough. They were fun to watch, though, weren't they? I never forget, Conrad, when I first, obviously I watched the Road Warriors in Minneapolis when I was, long before I got into the business. They were a big part of the AWA. I really dug them. But about 1989, maybe 1990, things were really getting financially tough for Vern, and we were looking for new ways to create revenue. That was part of my job. And I was sitting back in a post-production studio at one point with Joe Chupik. We used to call him Polish Joe. Still do. Did his podcast not too long ago in Minneapolis. The AWA Unleashed podcast, I think is the name of it. And we're just, putting our heads together and we're looking around and there's just like stacks and stacks of 1/2-inch tape, old 1-inch tapes before they changed over to the 3/4 inch technology, long before digital. And we're looking at all these tapes and it's like, wow, you think about all of the people that have come through the AWA territory starting in 1980 through 1989. It was really the who's who of professional wrestling at that point. And we came up with the idea to put together a AWA Best of the 80s video. And part of that was Joe and I would just sit back and just watch thousands of hours of footage looking for the right kind of clips to take out and include in this video. And this is long before I never even had a conversation with anybody about creative. I wasn't, to be honest, really that interested in the creative process. I was interested in the finished product, but I sat there with Joe and we watched the beginning of the Road Warriors career, at least in AWA, until the end. And you could see this transition happen where all of the babyface teams, tag teams, or even the babyface wrestlers, they all came out and they had a certain, they were baby faces. They were pure baby faces. They didn't have much of an edge to them. Heels did. Guys like Nick Bockwinkel did. But your pure baby faces, like at the time, certainly Vern, but Wahoo McDaniel, for example, he was wrestling as a baby face there. You could pretty much predict the tone and tenor of whatever, Wahoo was going to have to say in an interview. But we started watching the Road Warriors, and they came out and they had that kind of babyface vibe to them, but you could just watch them gradually turn into just ass-kicking baby faces that were really blurring the lines between baby faces and heels. So you got the Road Warriors are now heels in AWA, but they have essentially the same kind of presentation that they did initially. And they were getting huge baby face pops, much like the NWO ended up getting. They were brought in as heels, but guess what? They were cool as shit. And then all of a sudden they're getting, the kind of reaction that baby faces were hoping to get. It's pretty interesting watching that transformation just kind of happening right before your eyes over the series of, hundreds of hours of watching their stuff.
It's interesting to see a tag team made like we're watching here. Of course, we're still watching Raw from November 24th, 1997. If you're watching on Peacock along with us, this is season 5, episode 45. We saw an in-ring promo from Harvey Whippleman dressed as Ravishing Rick Rude. He was interrupted and embarrassed, pushed down face first by Shawn Michaels, the leader of DX, who had Triple H in China in tow. And then the Road Warriors came out. Sans shoulder pads. Here are the Outlaws, spoofing them, trashing them. And now we've got a double down. Animal gets the hot tag here. And the referee, Mike Chioda, doesn't see it. This creates an opportunity for Billy Gunn to go to work on Road Warrior Hawk. And if I had to guess, there it is. Big title shot right across the dome from Road Dogg onto Hawk. Chioda makes the count. Oh, Road Warrior Hawk kicks out. How about that? This is the tail end of Legion of Doom. We're going to see them sort of reimagined in 1998. They're going to be called LOD 2000. They're going to get some airbrushed shoulder pads, and they're going to start wearing airbrushed helmets to the ring that match. And they've got a new manager, no longer Paul Ellering. It's going to be the scantily clad Tammy Sitch. Do you think in a different era that would have worked? Or do you always kind of imagine it needs to be Paul Ellering or nothing?
Look, it's what it's what you became familiar with first. And I think the Legion of Doom, Road Warriors with Paul Ellering will always be the best version of the Road Warriors for me. If you go back and watch, and I have within the last 6 months or so, I don't know why, but I went back and watched some of the Road Warriors in NWA working for Crockett. Those were some amazing matches. The reaction that these guys got, the intensity of them, they were really on the cutting edge of the next evolution of professional wrestling and presentation. If you look at the way talent was, especially heels, were presented prior to that and then post Road Warriors, they really were part of a pretty serious pivotal change in direction, at least in terms of presentation.